Pauses, we think of pauses or pausing, like not playing, as a thing, right? We have melody, we have notes, and then we have something that is not melody. When we stop playing, when we have those breaks in between our notes, and we think of them as pauses, but they're really not. Because it's there all the time, right? The prerequisite of sound is that there is something called not sound. And that is kind of the foundation of it all. So everything is playing in silence. Right? The silence is right back there. It's the whole thing, right? It's the canvas, right? You have, when you're painting, you have a white canvas, which is no color, right? And then we put colors on it. But the white canvas is just, it's what makes it all possible. And the same thing goes for silence, that it is the canvas. And if you don't allow people to see the canvas or see through it, by taking breaks, by using the whole essence of music, which is really what it is, then they won't see the things as clearly. And there's a cool analogy. I once knew a guy who was just crazy about stuff. So his whole house was just plastered in stuff. You couldn't even see the walls. There were pictures everywhere. And when I see that, I feel that urge to just have space in between things, right? If I have an image on the wall, I need there to be space around it, so I can see it. There it is, right? It's a thing, and it's itself. It's not all other things. It's not a collage of things, right? If I do a collage, or if I have a collage, I want there to be space around that, because that's what enables me to see the identity and feel it and see it for itself, without having all kinds of other stuff. You don't eat a lot of dishes and then put all, Indian food, Chinese, Japanese, and then put it all together. I like Indian, I like Chinese, I like, whatever, and then I just shove it all together, because then I get it's 3 times as good, right? No, it's not, because you need the identity. You need to sense the identity of each individual flavor. And if you cram it together, you lose that. And it's the same thing with playing. That without the breaks, you don't get to experience each sentence you do, right? If I talk constantly without taking any breaks, you're going to overload, because your brain needs those little breaks to kind of digest what I'm saying, right? So it's important to take breaks, but not important as in just objectively important. If you want to have what you do really stand out, right? If that's your goal, then you want to introduce a lot of breaks in your playing, and you need to come to the place where you are relaxed, where you can really feel the silence. It's like a stand-up comedian, right? The good ones, they can really let the silence work for them, right? And then have that timing, that punchline come out after taking a break, and then, be silent again. So they use the silence to frame things, to make sure that there's room around this joke or room around this little point, right? Whereas nervous comedians, they just try to cram as much information in there, because it's the information, right? But the silence is the canvas, is what makes things stand out. And that's what you can try. You can not try, but you can practice using that by starting with slow tracks. And then when you do your conversation, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, then watch the previous video about how to practice improvisation. When you do your... Now I even have breaks here, right? In between the chords. And you can feel how that makes them stand out. Oops. You see how that works? Of course you do. And it's statements all the time. It's sentences. It's like when you talk, it's little bundles of meaning. And they need to stand there, and you need to digest them, and then you can digest another one that is connected to the first one. So you're always speaking or playing something because of what you just play. It's connected. It makes musical sense. And then you allow that space, and then you can speed it up, right? You can use breaks even when it's fast, but it's a good idea to go slow, limit your tools as we talked about in the previous video, and then make sure that you really enjoy those spaces and say, what's coming next? What am I going to come up with next? And it can just be one note, so you can just take it easy. I'm going to do it again here, because every time I stop, I delete the track. And 1. And if you have your chord tones of the chord in the background, the arpeggios, in order, it's really easy to play something that makes sense, and just rely on the pauses to make it interesting, actually, and to practice that specifically. Here we go with the A minor. Chord notes. Scale note. And chord note again. Just building melodies. Arpeggio notes mostly. Arpeggio notes again. And it's so pleasurable just to focus on this, just simply. You know, and being able to tie those little lines together, waiting every time, then creating a new one. It's quite amazing. It's really fun. And in the beginning, of course, you play a lot of stuff that isn't really, doesn't sound good. But then as you become better, just by playing over 3 chords all the time, you get to know the right notes, and suddenly you can start creating those little melodies and having a conversation with yourself like this, using the blank spaces in between, and making sure that each statement you make kind of stands in the frame with spaces around it.